What is up guys, JaretCampisi, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a first ride and review on this beautiful 2018 Aprilia Tuono 1100 factory. If you want to see the features and overview of the motorcycle, I'll put a link to that in the description below. I split them up into two videos because it was just going to be way too much for one video. And also, if you don't know, this is the next bike we're going to be customizing and then giving away through my custom build series. If you want to be entered to win this bike when we're done and help support the series, check out the Patreon page. It's always the first link in the description below. I don't want to take any more time. Let's hop on this bad boy and take it for a spin. Enjoy. So we are starting out in sport mode. This does have three different modes. It has sport, track, and race. I noticed that when I change the modes, it doesn't actually change the different like traction control settings and all that kind of stuff. That stays wherever you put it. So I believe the modes really just have to do with power delivery, whether it's low, medium, or high power delivery, which is my guess, but I'm not actually positive on that. Somebody might be able to chime in on the comment section below. The first thing that I noticed, I have ridden two RSV4 RFs, and they were a lot higher, the seat height, than this one. So I'm 5'10", and I can pretty much flat feet both on the ground. If not very, very close. And even the peg height doesn't seem quite as high as the RSV4, which is weird because I know this is pretty much like very, very similar to the RSV4. It even has the RSV4 rear tail section. It's the same chassis. It does have a different motor, but for whatever reason, it just... God, that V4 is just magical, and that really is the highlight of this bike. So you're getting the 1100cc, actually it's 1077cc, even though they call it the 1100cc motor, 175 horsepower to the crank, and we'll find out what it does to the wheel once we put it on the dyno after I finish breaking it in. It only has 385 miles right now, so I don't want to push it too hard, but I do believe in spirited break-ins. One thing I've noticed about this bike is it is incredibly tall geared, even though this is tuned for the street. And it has a bigger CC so they can give it more low-end grunt and power. And it still has low-end grunt and power. It literally has power everywhere. But, like, look at this. I could be in first gear right now, going 40 miles an hour at 6,000, 7,000 RPMs, and I have 13,000. Look at this thing, dude. Oh my God. It is out of control, the power on this thing. And I'm only in freaking sport mode. I did find that sport mode is a little bit... easier to ride around at low speeds. It does have a quick shifter. I'll just pop it right up just like that. If I want to change the modes, I just press the start button of all things. I can change it into track mode now, and then just change it. So that's a really easy way to change modes. It's kind of weird pressing the start button, but they already had enough buttons on this side, I feel like. So they were like, you know what? Let's not put any more buttons on this damn thing than we need to. Just gonna go ahead and split lanes because I am in the beautiful state of California. So in track mode, definitely a lot more power. Like I gotta tell you guys, maybe it's from being on the XD Oval. I mean, that thing had a hell of a lot of power too, but for whatever reason, every time I look down on this bike, I'm going twice as fast as I think I am. And that's a testament to how good this chassis is and how smooth this V4 is. So this chassis is regarded as one of the best handling chassis ever put on a motorcycle. It was that way on the RSV4, and it's that way on the Aprilia Tuono. And because of the upright bars, it's incredibly easy to ride. Like, you're not so pitched over on your wrists. There's almost no weight on your wrists at all. And that's why people always say, you know, don't buy the RSV4, buy the Tuono if you're going to ride it on the street. And I kind of agree with them. I mean, I don't think it quite looks as good as the RSV4 does because of the nakedness, but once you put the RSV4 carbon belly panel on there, it actually does look pretty damn incredible, and we are going to do that as well. But for ripping around on the streets and stuff, it's such a comfortable bike. Like, it does make a lot more sense than an RSV4, you know? But, dude, it is, like... ballistically fast. I was actually riding with my buddy the other day, and he was on his R1 yesterday actually, and we were going up an incline, and I just saw him tuck in and just gun it, and we were already doing like 80 at that point, and I was like, fuck it, I wonder what this bike can do, you know? So I just tuck in and just like gun it, and I just walked him down and went flying by him at like 150, like he was standing still. And we were talking on our Sennas, and he was like, what? He was like, dude, what the hell? How did you do that? He's like, I had it completely wide open. I was like, oh, I thought you might have. And I was like, man, this thing's fast, dude. I mean, that is a 2003 R1, so it is a little bit older. But this motor is insane, especially going uphill. Those inline fours don't have the torque that this V4 motor does, which is one of the reasons why this bike is so much fun, because it has that torque. At 4,000 RPMs, I can still twist the throttle and go no matter what gear I'm in. I actually was even playing it around on the highway. The same thing happens. And then as soon as you come up to a curve, you realize why this bike is so freaking incredible. Because the seat is roomy, you can really move around. And when you do start to move around, you realize that there's parts on the seat that your ass literally sits in. Like it was designed not only to be comfortable when you're sitting like this upright, but also designed that when you hang off with your one cheek off the seat, it literally sits perfectly for you. And because you have no weight on your wrists, you have so much control. It's insane. The Olin suspension does such a good job at soaking up bumps and being stiff when you need it to be, but also being loose enough whenever there's bumps to soak them up as well. And man, it's such a good bike. And now I understand why everyone loves this bike and why it wins every super naked shootout every year for the past 8 years, because it really is just in a league of its own. They just absolutely crushed it with this bike, and that's why they haven't changed much. There you go. Auto downshifts, just blip it, it goes down. Quick shifts, just shift it and it goes up. I will say that all the stuff on the gear shifter takes a little bit of getting used to, because there's so much stuff over here. But you can like adjust traction control on the fly. It's got cruise control, even the wheelie control you can adjust on the fly. I mean, I'll tell you, man, it's a missile, dude. It doesn't make any sense that it's this fast. It's crazy. And I know that this thing rips on the track too, so like you could buy one of these, have an incredible street bike, ride with anybody, keep up with anybody, and then take it to the track and probably spank everybody on the track too, because it's probably easier to ride than most of the super bikes. So if you're not a professional rider, you're probably going to go faster on something like this. And that's why it's such a freaking awesome bike, man. Like I said, I've always loved the Aprilias. I'm an Italian guy. I love Italian bikes. I've always loved the V4, and I think that this is the best sounding motor of all time, and it will sound even better once we put a full titanium exhaust on this and flash it. But one of the things I've noticed is, like I said, with that tall gearing, like low down, pretty much anything under like 15 miles an hour, it stutters a little bit, so you do have to feather the clutch quite a bit. And I'm not sure if putting an exhaust on and flashing it might help that, because I know that these things get neutered because of all the Euro 4 regulations and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's a really impressive bike. It's really comfortable. Like, look at this. Like, it begs you to go faster. It's just like laughing at you. You can see your lean angle sensor. It's got a braking sensor. You can see that when I brake, when I give it throttle. I mean, you're not really looking at that kind of stuff when you're riding, but it's just cool. It's just cool to see. Or if you film like I do, you can go back and look at and see what you're doing and stuff like that. I even mentioned, like in my overview video and talking about the features, that you can connect to this via an app on your phone and change all the settings while you're sitting having a coffee or having a beer or whatever you're doing. Don't drink and drive. But they really did think of everything with this bike, and it's just a really impressive package, man. The mirrors, in my opinion, they work fine, but I just don't like mirrors that stick up. I like nothing sticking off the bike. So I mean, that's an easy fix. Pop these off, put on bar ends. That's what we're gonna do. From the factory, the levers seem a little bit high. So like when you're riding a bike, when you sit on the bike and you put your hands out like this, that's kind of whatever your position your body's in, that's where you want your lever. So you see it would probably be down in another inch. It'll be a lot easier to use for riding like Spirited, a little bit faster and stuff like that. But the motor, dude, and when you do that decel, I hope you can hear those pops and stuff. All of this shit will be completely enhanced whenever we put that system on it. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a a sport bike or a naked bike, absolutely try this bike out, because it is really, really impressive. You know, this bike competes with things like the Super Duke R, the BMW S1000 single R, maybe like the Diavel, the Monster 1200S, stuff like that. And I mean, honestly, they're all great bikes at the end of the day, but I think that this one, because of the character of that motor and because of how good the chassis is and the suspension, oh, and the brakes, like the brakes are ridiculous. So Brembo M50 monoblock calipers, when you squeeze them, like, it's absurd. And then just because everything's tied into that IMU, that inertial sensor, like all of the electronics are tied into that inertial sensor. So when you do things like braking, and if you're braking really hard, it'll keep the back wheel from coming up, which is really nice. And also the ABS works while you're leaned over, and all traction control and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's just, let me see if I can, yeah, so it wheelies really easily. And so that's what you see when it intervenes. So that's one thing I would say is, it's kind of hard to tell. So like when you're getting close to red line, the whole thing will light up, like it'll like start yellow and go to red right here. And when you're getting close to red line, that'll all light up, right? So, but whenever the traction control or one of the like electronics kicks in, it kind of does the same thing. It flashes right there. So sometimes you get a little confused whether or not you're getting close to red line, or if one of the like electronic features are kicking in. I think they should have maybe put something flashing over here, like a yellow or an orange, so you don't get confused. But very small gripe. My only other gripe with this bike would be the fact that it doesn't have LED lighting. I think that every bike, especially around this price point, 15,000, 17,000 for the factory model, they should have full LED lighting, and they should have daytime running lights and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's a small gripe. I'm sure they'll probably have it next year, would be my guess. But yeah, man, let's get this bike on the highway and see how it feels. But as far as like, you know, city cruising and then canyon riding and stuff like that, you really can't beat this bike. It is so comfortable. Like, I'm in such a comfortable position, and it's cool because as it's a naked bike, but it still has that front fairing and light setup, and it actually does a really good job of buffering wind. Like, I don't feel any wind until here, way up here, which pretty much goes right over my head. So, and then obviously if you tuck in like this, you're getting no wind at all. And that seat's big enough that when you do tuck in like this, you still have room to slide around. So pretty freaking awesome. I'm honestly just really happy that I wasn't doing 120 going by that cop back there. At first I was pissed off at this BMW for being in front of me, and now he just saved me probably my license. All right, so let's hop on the highway here and see how it feels. So I haven't ridden a ton of naked bikes, but I have ridden the S1000 single R, and obviously I've ridden all the super bikes, the RSV4, all the derivatives that are based on these bikes that are based on them. And I gotta say, man, this is one of my favorite ones. Everybody said do a Tuono, do it super naked or whatever, and I had my doubts, but man, it is so good, and the quick shifter is so good. I will say it's not perfect when you're not going fast. Okay, that one was pretty good. Get over here. Good God, it's just so stable, and you can just like look at it like wants to go. That's because I'm in track setting, so it's giving me that full freaking punch, you know. If I was in sport, I'm sure that would be a lot smoother, but I don't like to ride in pussy modes, you know what I'm saying? It is such a good bike. So there's not a ton of wind until you're getting over like 100 miles an hour and stuff, which we don't do on YouTube. This is all kilometers per hour. There's a lot of cops out today. Holy crap. I need to be careful. Yeah, there's not a lot of wind. It is windy outside, so I'm getting some crosswind and stuff if you're hearing that on the microphone. But it's funny because it is a pretty aggressive riding position as naked bikes go. But when you're on the highway or doing any kind of speed, that wind hits you and it really kind of helps you sit up. So I literally have almost no weight on my wrists at all. So you could take this for long rides, like go on hour-long, 2, 3, 4, 5 hour long rides, and you would be completely fine and comfortable. So, man, I gotta say, overall, I'm very, very impressed with this bike. If you're in the market for something sporty and something unique and rare and Italian, this is a really good choice, man. The Aprilia Tuono V4. Oh man, it's a really good bike. I would honestly buy one of these. I would just have to give it a paint scheme because for whatever reason they just go crazy with the colors, and I much prefer classy colors. But yeah, you can see how the tall gearing, like I can be in third gear on the highway doing 70, like no problem. I could probably even be in second gear doing 80. I mean, this is ridiculous because it would just pop wheelies and shit. But man, it's such a ridiculous bike. So check this out. Even at like, let me see. even in 5th gear, right? Or I'll put it in 6th gear. 5,000 RPMs on the highway, right? Look, okay, it bogs down a little bit at that point, but you can still get out of, like, if you're cruising along in 6th gear and you need to get out of a situation or whatever, you can still do it. So yeah, there you go, guys. Overall thoughts and feelings of the 2018 Aprilia Tuono 1100 factory. Very, very impressed. It's a freaking hooligan bike. You just want to rip everywhere and do wheelies and carve canyons, and you can get into a lot of trouble with this bike, so you really need to be careful. But if you're in the market for one, go and test ride it, because they're freaking awesome. Or sign up for my build series and you can win a freaking ridiculous custom version that's probably going to be worth about $50,000 by the time we're done with it. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, click that like button, turn the bell on so you get notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Oh God, yes. Downshift. Oh yes, it barks at you. It just wants more. It just wants, it's like, why are you being such a bitch, dude? Come on, downshift, Jaret. Give me some gas, give me some throttle, baby.